Oh, so everybody wants to get big mad about Carolina being in the dance? Just fuel for the fire.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us your first listen or watch of the day. Get yourself going on Tar Heels content while you drink your coffee or whatever it is you're doing. Special shout out to all the everydayers joining us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our great insiders. This episode is brought to you by Nissan and the all-new 2025 Armada. Stay with us for the Armada Team of the Week later in the episode. A couple things as we get going today. The Locked On Tar Heels March Madness Bracket Challenge is out and ready. Big shout out to struggling college student Steven in the Locked On Tar Heels Discord for setting it up. He is a dude. Make sure you hop in there. We will post the links on all the Locked On Tar Heels social media accounts. It's also in the Discord. And so if you're in there, obviously you can find it there. If you're not in the Discord, why not? Come on in. That link is in the show notes. It's a lot of fun. Another thing I want to make sure you're aware of is I'm back in my home studio area now. I've been in Dallas over the weekend recording bracket breakdown shows for Amazon in studio with a whole great crew of people. It's been phenomenal stuff. You can catch all these on, if you use, I use Fire Sticks on all my TVs. So you can catch it on there. It's just on the slider, the main slider. It'll pop up. It'll show you a little promo thing, and you can click on it and see the episodes. Lots of fun, and I think you'll enjoy it. And I'm on there, man. So it's a lot of cool ways to get the Locked On Tar Heels family going. Okay, coming up on the show today, it's game day, baby. Game day. We got to get after it. We'll have our Four Corners preview. We'll set up the details of the game, get to know San Diego State a little bit. But before we get to all of that, it's Trivia Tuesday. Let's start there. Carolina lost in the first round of the 2021 NCAA tournament. That was Coach Williams last year, and it was also, the first and only time Coach Williams lost in the first round in his entire career, not just to Carolina, but Kansas and Carolina combined. Crazy stuff. My question to you all is this. When was the last time prior to 2021 that the Tar Heels lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament? The answer for that coming up at the end of the show. Hopefully, what I'm trying to do there is like reverse juju this thing so that Carolina does work against San Diego State tonight. All right. First off, there is good mojo with Carolina being in Dayton. Let's remember the Tar Heels beat Dayton, came back from way down to do that in Maui. And so, now you go play in their arena. Only good things can happen, right? So we're ready for it tonight. I cannot tell you how hilarious I think it is. All the just vitriol and hate and anger that people have at the Tar Heels for making it in. I mean, y'all, it is everywhere right now. It's rampant. And I can't get enough of it. It's so fun. Maybe the biggest subset of people I've noticed upset about it is the West Virginia fan base, because they're all big mad that West Virginia didn't get in, which I am too. I thought they should have got in, but I'm glad they didn't, because then the Tar Heels would have been pushed out, right? So, both of those things can be true. I wish for West Virginia was in, but I'm also glad the Tar Heels are in. But they're literally like somebody, I don't know if it's the governor himself or what, is suing the NCAA on West Virginia's behalf. And like they held a press conference and they made up this thing that was like NCAA, but it was like national colluders or cheaters or something like that. Athletic. Anyway, it's a whole thing. So because of all this, because of West Virginia, because of people like Carolina shouldn't be in, like all sorts of national media, all sorts of other fan bases. I saw somebody saying that San Diego State tonight is like the defender of the earned bids committee for people that actually earned their bids, meaning that Carolina is just coasting in and doesn't really deserve to be here. All right, fine. Maybe they don't. But you know what? They're there. And I say, take all this heat, take all this frustration, take all this resentment towards the Tar Heels, and use it. Use it. I said yesterday on the show that Carolina winning or losing this game tonight doesn't validate or invalidate the selection committee's decision to put them in. I think that's an issue that people bring up a lot of times. It's like, oh, see, this team went this far. Clearly they deserved to be in if it was controversial. Or, see, told you that team lost their first game, never should have been in. Almost always, how a team does in their first game or second game or whatever it is not an indictment or a commendation of the selection committee. Outside of one that really gets me still is Virginia last year. They were awful and had no business being in, and they were an embarrassment to themselves and the rest of the ACC. Man. So we'll see who Virginia's new coach is. I think it's going to be Ryan Odom from VCU. Whenever they end up losing, they might beat BYU in the first round, and we'll see. Anyway, that just because a win or a loss here doesn't validate or invalidate the selection committee saying, I don't care. Take all this hate and use it, man. Bulletin board material, lean into it. If I'm Hubert Davis, here's the message I'm sending in the locker room today or yesterday or at some point leading up to this. You hear all that noise out there? Hopefully you don't, because you're not reading a ton of social media, because it's bad for these guys, for any college student athlete. But you hear all this? They, whoever they is, think you don't belong here. They think you shouldn't be playing in this tournament. They think somebody else should be, West Virginia or Indiana or somebody else, not named the North Carolina Tar Heels. So you know what you got to go do, boys? You got to go show them why they put you in and why you're here. Let's go blitz these Aztecs. That's the message from me if I'm Hubert Davis. And as part of this, here's something I've realized a little bit. I like the villain role. I don't want to be turds. I don't want Carolina to be jerks, but it's like, let's lean into being the villain. You know why? Because people love to watch a villain. They say they're hate watching. I think they just, it's like, whether it's like watching the Yankees to see if they lose or, whatever it may be. Let's play the villain role. If people are going to put Carolina in the position of being villain, do it. Just be like, sure, bring it on. We're going to give you everything we have and more. So let's be the villain while carrying on a trend that started. I mentioned this on yesterday's show, and I went back and did the research just to verify and wanted to share it again. This is the 14th season that we've had the first four teams. It would be 15 if it wasn't for 2020 and COVID. So this started back in 2011 was the first year of the play-in games, and that means we've had 13 seasons of the play-in teams. In that 13 season span, 12 of those seasons, at least one play-in team has won a second game beyond the play-in game, so winning at least the first round matchup. The lone outlier was 2019 when all four at-large play-in teams all lost. That's literally the only time it's happened. But it has happened twice. It was funny because literally the first year of this thing, VCU, funny enough, we were just talking about them, beats USC in the play-in game, and then rattles off wins over Georgetown, Purdue, Florida State, and Kansas to make it to the Final Four, where they eventually lost to national runner-up and 8 seed Butler. That's the furthest example, and it's tied with 2021. Interestingly, exactly 10 years later, when UCLA did the same thing. They beat Michigan State in the play-in game, and then they rattled off wins against BYU, Abilene Christian, Alabama, and Michigan before they eventually lost to Gonzaga on the Jalen shot. You remember that? That was crazy. Gonzaga, UCLA, my word. That was in 2021. Gonzaga goes on to the national championship game where Baylor just wipes the floor with them, man. That was crazy. But yes, teams in Carolina's position have gone to the Final Four. Here's what I want to say. Man, this is a weird position for the Tar Heels to be in. Let's recognize it, right? It's different. It's unique. Carolina's never been here before. Oh, and you're telling me that the furthest the first four team has ever made it is the Final Four? Cool. Let's one up that, or two up that, even better. Let's make it all the way to the championship game. Let's be the first team to do that. Better yet, go out and win the whole blessed thing. Why not, right? And I know people would say, Isaac, that sounds crazy. Carolina's never going to do that. I would have said the same thing going into 2022. But look what Carolina did. It's not outside the realm of possibility. And so we're going to see what happens with all that. Now, as for San Diego State, they have a stout defense, but on the other side of the floor, there's just a couple guys that Carolina is really going to need to focus on. We'll get to all that and more in our Four Corners preview in just a second. Right after I tell you about Nissan, the Armada Team of the Week is brought to you by our good friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, our Locked On College basketball experts, that's me, are picking one team that stands apart. From top-seeded stars to the unexpected upsets, these guys showcase the strength and sheer power needed to push their team forward. This week's Armada and clear-cut Team of the Week is the Florida Gators. The Gators, led by Walter Clayton, 17 points a game, just dominated the SEC tournament, winning each game by at least 9 points. Not only did Florida end up grabbing the 4th 1 seed, but they are the nation's most efficient offense per KenPom. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what the Florida Gators have done. It's clear that our Team of the Week is out here and ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of Nissan's outstanding vehicles. So take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. This episode is also brought to you by Fabric. Look, life moves fast, particularly when you have a family. I mean, they're growing like weeds. I look around my house and I can't wrap my brain around it. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college and gone, and then you don't know what to do. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is required. As a parent, I want to make sure that my family is financially protected no matter what happens. So Fabric gives me that peace of mind. You can get $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. So protecting your loved ones, it doesn't have to break the bank. And Fabric also offers free digital wills and access to investment accounts to help you plan for your children's future. Join the thousands of parents all over who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. One more time, that's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies are issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states, and prices are subject to underwriting and health questions. Four Corners preview. I said there's really only two guys Carolina has to focus on, and that's number one. It's the Boyd and Bird show for San Diego State. And here's what I mean. These are the only two players in double figures for San Diego State's roster. That would be Nick Boyd and Miles Bird. I flip-flopped them in my head. We got these two Bs, and it's really close together. So if I'm Carolina, I'm looking to shut down Boyd and Bird and make somebody else be. I mean, there's a couple other guys that are at 9 or just in the mid-8s or whatever, and sure, that's fine. But it's Boyd and Bird. That's what you got to take care of. With them, with Bird, it's a little bit tougher. He's 6'7", 190. So I'm sick and Drake Powell on him. He kind of plays the small forward position for them. And then Nick Boyd and any of the other guards. I'm sure Seth will have turns on him when he checks in, probably. And then RJ or Elliot as well. So we'll see what happens there. But got to force somebody else to beat you. That's the plan of attack from my vantage point. Number 2 in the Four Corners preview. The KenPom offense and defensive efficiency for San Diego State tell you everything you need to be aware of about this team. And all that is the Aztec defense. The offense, we'll explain that in a little bit, but you ain't really got to worry about that. As for the defense, though, that's a whole different ball of wax. They allow just 63.6 points a game. That's 14th best in the entire nation. They block 5.5 shots a game. This one, they are 8th nationally in blocks per game. Almost half of which, by the way, come from the Mountain West Conference's leading blocker, Magoon Gwath, who gets 2.6 a game. As we always talk about, how do you offset that? Great question, because this dude is massive, 7 feet tall. You have to get into his body. Don't let him get his arms extended to where he has angles to block your shot. What you got to do is drive straight into his chest, make him make a business decision to either back off, try to go vertical and not pick up a foul, or foul you. Or if you have to step from across the lane and help side defense, whoop, doop, doop, nope, bounce pass, easy layup, right? Whatever it is, go into his chest. Don't let his shot blocking sensibilities be a factor in this game. But it is, again, about their entire defense with San Diego State. Gonzaga scored 80 on them back in November. That's literally the most they've allowed this entire season. Only one opponent has hit in the 80s, and that was 80. Nobody in the 90s, nobody in the 100s. That's crazy stuff from San Diego State. But we know what Carolina's been doing, where all this slew of games for a while, they're scoring 80 or more points. Something's got to give here, and we'll see what it is. Number 3 in the Four Corners preview. Van Allen Lubin just becomes more and more critical to this roster and to this team's performance every time he steps on the floor. I've been so impressed lately with Van Allen's activity. I mean, it all goes back to what Coach Rob said all offseason. Van Allen is a beast. I'm so excited to see what it is that he can and will do. And we didn't see that initially, right? It has taken Van a long time, and I think probably the coaches and his teammates as well, to figure it out. Who are we? What are we with this dude on the floor? And I think they're better. The ceiling is higher. For Van Allen Lubin, he's got a double-double in 4 of his last 5 games, including 3 straight, and he scored in double figures in points 9 straight games. This could be 10 tonight, taking on the Aztecs. Really good stuff there from Van Allen Lubin. Just his activity, his pairing with Elliot Cadeau to just dunk everything in sight, right? Man, it's really good, and he needs to continue to develop so that he can continue to bring the best stuff for Carolina. And then 4th and finally in our Four Corners preview, this one is another Carolina focus point. And I think this is the most important one to me. This literally could be your last game. It's fine to think that, but if you're Carolina, you cannot let that weigh on you, particularly if your name is RJ Davis or Jalen Withers or Ty Claude. Those are the seniors that are guaranteed to not be back because they're already using their COVID eligibility, and this is the last class that has it. So, you've got to process that, but you don't want to let it be debilitating for you to where you don't perform. So, my encouragement and what I'm watching to see from Carolina is how loose are they playing? Do they come out tight because they know they got to do something? Or do they come out just like house money, right? We probably shouldn't have been in, or we didn't expect to get in. We hoped like crazy we would be insane, but we weren't all that hopeful if we're being quite honest. So play loose, play relaxed, because you're playing with house money at this point if you're Carolina, right? So there's no need to get stressed out. There's no need to get worried. Just go ball out. That's what we're looking for. Take this house money and run with it to the hills as you get as far as you can in this tournament. It'll be great stuff to see. Next, we got to get to know San Diego State a little bit. What should you be watching for? I already told you about Bird and Boyd, but there's some other things we'll get to as well. Make predictions for this thing. I got to give you the Tuesday trivia answer. All that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and so much more. Experts who are ready to help take your business to the next level. What Upwork does is gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, well, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered already incredible results. Posting a job, it's free, it's simple, and within a day, you're going to have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Check it all out. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. Again, that's Upwork, UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team, every day.
Go ahead and get your naps in now, folks. It's going to be a late one. Tip for this is scheduled for 9:10 p.m. Eastern time. And, ultimately that doesn't mean 9:10. That means, it might start at 9:10, but it will not start any earlier than that. Tip for the previous game is 6:40 p.m. Eastern time, 7:40, 8:40. So this game needs to end in exactly 2 hours if Carolina is going to start at 9:10. That's what they've allowed here. And then you get the half an hour time for warm up. So we're praying like crazy. This game is a blowout one way or the other, the game before, so that Carolina will tip in plenty of time, which, by the way, let me go ahead and remind you now, we will do a live postcast tonight after the game, even though it's late. All right, here we go. North Carolina, San Diego State tonight, Tuesday, March 18th in Dayton, Ohio at Dayton Arena. Again, approximately 9:10 Eastern. This game will be on True TV. Go ahead and work at finding that now so you're ready and you're not scrambling at game time. FanDuel. When we talked yesterday, the line for this thing had initially dropped, not dropped like dropped in number, just like dropped like an album or something. That's confusing language. The FanDuel line for this game started at Carolina -3.5. Since then, at least as we record right now, it is all the way up to 5.5. So Carolina by 5.5 in this game. We'll see what that means. KenPom is a little bit smaller on it. KenPom has it Carolina -2. Series record? These two teams have never played. This is going to be the first meeting between them. Their coach is Brian Dutcher in his 8th season at the helm there in Viejas. And so let's remember, 2023, this team broke through, first ever Mountain West team to make an Elite 8, by the way, and then just rode it all the way into being the national runner-up to the first of the 2 UConn championships. Interesting, because Carolina was in the championship the year before. So this is 2 teams that have pretty recently been in the final game of the season. San Diego State not ranked in the AP poll. They are 52nd in the net. Carolina 36th. San Diego State is 46th at KenPom. Carolina is 33rd. Their defense, again, elite, 13th in the nation at KenPom defensive efficiency. But, I need to tell you about the offense. Yeah, it's ranked 111th. Now, I thought to myself, wow, is that just some sort of anomaly? Is it just KenPom? What is it? So I went and checked out Torvik as well, and the results are pretty similar. At Torvik, right now, San Diego State ranks as 53rd overall. They're 14th in defensive efficiency, so right there, but their offense is 121st. That's not going to cut it. And so hopefully Carolina can exploit that with their defense tonight. So results thus far in the season for San Diego State. Overall, they are 21-9. They went 14-6 in Mountain West Conference play. And then they lost their first Mountain West tournament game to Boise State, who was also trying to work their way in. In terms of non-con wins, they had some really good ones, and one in particularly that has held up very well, and that's UC San Diego, one that at the time was like, all right, you beat UC San Diego by 5. Big deal. But it has turned into a big deal because that's a really good basketball team. And then you got Creighton. They beat them. Houston. They beat Houston. In Mountain West Conference, they beat Boise twice. They beat Colorado State. They beat New Mexico. And so I feel like San Diego State's got a collection of some really nice wins here. Non-con losses, there were only 2 of them. Gonzaga and Oregon, really nice run through the non-con there for San Diego State. In the Mountain West, the losses they took were 2 Utah State twice, New Mexico, so they split with the Lobos there. UNLV, they lost to them both times they played. That's kind of an anomaly to me. And then they split also with Colorado State, losing 1 to San Diego State. So there is their resume and their roster so far. In terms of usual starters, at the point is Nick Boyd. We talked Boyd and Bird earlier. Here's the first one of that. He's a 6'3" senior. At the 2 guard is not Bird. It's BJ Davis, a 6'2" sophomore there in the backcourt with Boyd. And then Bird comes in at the wing as the small forward. Miles Bird. This is going to be a struggle. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to continue to get these guys reversed all day long. Miles Bird, 6'7" sophomore at the small forward position. Then you got Jackson Coleman Jones, 6'10" senior, and rounding it off with Magoon Gwath, a 7-footer at 205 pounds. Now you might be saying to Isaac, Miles Heide has been starting these games for San Diego State. Why isn't he starting this one? Well, we don't know. I'm postulating, but I'll talk about why in just a second. As for now, though, with those 5, the depth that you've got is Miles Heide. Then you've got Taj DeGauerville. You've got Wayne McKinney and Pharaoh Compton. Those are the 4 main contributors to the roster, along with the starting 5. So keep your eyes on that. Now, something you need to know is that with Magoon Gwath, who's their big man, he's a really stud inside. We talked about his blocking capability, 7th in the nation there. Per Brian Dutcher, again, the Aztecs head coach, Magoon Gwath, quote, went through a full practice on Sunday and is fully available against Carolina, end quote. So Gwath had missed their last 5 games. He's their starting center when he's healthy and good. And I'm just curious about that quote, because it doesn't say Magoon Gwath went through a full practice on Sunday and will be back in the starting lineup. Nope, it just says and is fully available against Carolina. So what's interesting to me about that is fully available and game ready are 2 very different thoughts, are 2 very different things, because you can be fully available but still not play. I mean, I guess anybody could always not play because that's a coach's prerogative, whether healthy or not. But you get my point. The difference is fully available doesn't have baked into it that you actually play. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that and see how it all goes. Like, also, being fully available, does he just slot right back into the starting lineup? He's missed 9 games spread throughout the season at different times. So does he slot right back in, or do you take your time with it, practice a few things, and then we'll see what happens? I don't know what you do with that necessarily, but Magoon Gwath, I'll tell you this, is really good, and I don't want to have to mess with that too much. So we'll see what happens. As for a prediction for this game, I said San Diego State has given up 80 exactly one time. No other team has hit the 8 zeros for the season. It's been 70s, 60s, and 50s, all that. It's been crazy stuff against San Diego State. Why not be the first to do it? Let's one up and beat them by 11. Let's go 77-67. That's what I'm looking for in this game. No, I said by 11. So 77-66. That's what we got to get. Again, this is a good San Diego State squad. They've beaten some teams. There's going to be nerves both ways. So whoever can settle in and control those nerves more capably is probably the team that's going to take a lead early and probably the team that's going to ultimately win. So that said, how are these guys taking a breath? Well, I think it's got to be about RJ Davis and Jalen Withers setting the tone to say, look, this could be it for us. Ball. Let's all ball. Don't overthink it. Don't overdo it, because that's when stuff gets wacky. But I'm really curious to see how these guys play. All right, we got to wrap up with our Trivia Tuesday answer. So one answer question. Carolina lost in the first round of the 2021 NCAA tournament. Roy Williams last year, which is the only time he had lost in his career in the first round, including Kansas and Carolina. My question for you all is, when was the last time prior to this that Carolina lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament? If you want to take a second and think about it, great, or pause or whatever, because I'm going to give the answer right now. The answer is 1998. Bill Guthridge was the head coach, and we all remember the name. Harold Arceneaux went off for 36 against Carolina for Weber State there. And anyway, Weber State ends up winning by 2. Tough loss for the Tar Heels in that one. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. Again, tonight, post-game, we will be live with the reaction show after it's all said and done. Make sure you tune in for that. If you've not subscribed to the show on video and audio, go ahead and do it. For those of you watching on YouTube, hit it right now so that you are part of this family. It'll be great. Love to have you. I mentioned it earlier. Don't forget to subscribe to the Locked On Tar Heels Discord. We'd love to have you in that chat, man. It's so fun. People are going on all the time. Again, the bracket challenge for Locked On Tar Heels is in there and on social media as well, so you can sign up either place. If you want to go even deeper with the show, Locked On Tar Heels Insiders Program, that link is in the show notes, and it's absolutely something that you can do to help support the show. Always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tonight after the game, but until then, peace.